resulted in some changes in code, changes in approaches that we're going to want to revisit. And I think the situation with the trees on State Street points to a flaw, and one that myself, Councilor Tesler, who represented downtown prior to me, have been real surprised by. Our inability to affect that as a city council, the sort of suddenness of the decision, the suddenness of the tree removal. So we'll, Tesla and I have agreed to actively seek revisiting by the council of this downtown code and find out what exactly happened here and how we can turn it around. Because right now, if my understanding is correct, and I think there's still more to be learned, none of the trees downtown are in particularly safe situation if an adjoining property owner wants to see them removed. There seems to be a pretty big hole in the code right now. So fortunately, we've not seen this done before. Sort of where a business owner on their kind of own motion decides it's time for these guys to go, makes the appropriate application, uses the current code, and successfully does it. In fact, I spoke with Mr. Fernandez, the Public Works Director, Monday night about it. He said that he thought quite possibly, and I told him I hope it was true, it wasn't, the U.S. Bank manager was rethinking his decision. I've got to assume this morning, after the headlines in the paper, he's even further rethinking his decision. There still are 2 of the trees left, yeah, this was a real, I think, signal event for us as we consider the downtown tree canopy and how it's going to be preserved.
Were all of those but 2 trees taken down that are in that?
They're all gone.
No, except for 2, there's bird nests and
Bird nests.
2.
And they'll be gone.
But all the rest were taken?
Yeah.
4 of them,
Thursday night,
3 or 4.
Thursday night?
Yeah.
Oh.
right after the picketing.
Yeah, as soon as the picketers left,
Yeah.
And they had, just because they had filled out the proper forms, they were able to do it.
So anyway, we should at this point, and give Chuck and Laura Tesla a round of applause simply to encourage them to continue looking at this code revision and trying to get.
They're here.
hopefully we'll be back with a correction, hopefully, and as quickly as possible. This kind of event may encourage others to take similar action, which is even more discouraging. There are certainly various points downtown where you can see, and all you have to do is look out the window and see what this problem, not that I boxes thinking of removing trees.
May I interject something? The only response we can actually make is whoever has money in that bank is to go down there and take it out.
So,
May I interject?
I would suggest not going in and turning over desks and tables, apparently get arrested.
I think it's sort of related to this topic. Maybe you should revisit the sign code,
Although that too.
given the Ross Dress for Less controversy and giant billboards all over town. I wrote a letter to the editor about that.
Right, okay.
Okay, well, let's let.
Can I ask one? I just wanted to ask you, did this change in the code happen during years of Janet Taylor? And before that, it wasn't Peter Fernandez's responsibility?
No, he didn't write the code. As far as I know, he didn't write the
Before,
code.
he didn't have the voice.
The code,
When did this change that became?
well, that's part of what we're trying to figure out, is sort of get back into this, but it appears to have occurred, if you'll recall, and Casey was on the council then, there was a change in the tree code, we'll call it. While Mike was mayor, in comes Taylor and her group, and the code changed again. And it appears to have occurred in there. And it's really, and if it didn't, I apologize. But there has been and is a hole in that code that really just essentially says if you want the trees out and it fits a couple of criteria, out they go. And one of them, this guy fit these criteria to remove these trees. And you just can't legally say no to it. Well, if you can't legally say no, you have no way of stopping them. You've got yourself a problem, particularly when you hit trees that, like that, in that situation. The Public Works Director, in interpreting the code, determined that the guy was perfectly within his rights to remove them. What we need to do is make sure he's not perfectly within his rights to remove them. We don't have the correct criteria protecting those trees right now. And that's what's got to work.
So is this something that the council will be able to change?
Yeah.
You said hopefully, so I'm just wondering.
Well, I gotta get 5 votes. So it's like everything else down there, it's based on 5 votes. Evan went through the experience of that, trying to deal with the poultry issue. You gotta have 5 people agree with you, and if you got 4, you've got 1 too few and you lose completely.
So what you need, what you need at this point are people whose counselors hear from them about.
I think so. I think the council needs to understand this is more than a group of protesters or any of the rest of it, that this really does demand public reaction. And at this point, there certainly is public reaction, and I don't know how extensive it is. I mean, it's a pretty sudden event, so we won't know yet. Yeah.
Ernie and then Roger.
You know, in Salem town, we're a little more progressive. We bridge over the roots, we don't cut trees down.
Roger, you had a bunch of questions on this issue?
Yeah, I have a bunch of questions that Doreen wrote for me. I'm trying to get my hands around what they mean in the context of what you just said. And she was interested in the shade tree committee and what their input into this issue is, and
They're advisory to the
their
public works.
advisory on it.
Yeah, advisory.
So the criteria are basically non-existent or so
I-
weak that they can't be evaluated.
Right.
No,
Because when
I-
the owner says, you know, that they damaged the view of the building, they were buckling the sidewalk, because I know that there are technologies that sidewalks can be made of more resilient material, like rubberized, that will be more resilient to tree root damage. So I just don't understand what the criteria were and how he was able to go ahead. Since he met these criteria, since no one knows what these criteria are. And,
So that's what they're gonna try and fix.
and is there a way to stop him from cutting the remaining 2 trees by court?
As soon as the birds move out.
The problem is that, I'm just gonna throw my hat in the ring here. I'm on the Parks Board, I'm on the Shade Tree Committee. The problem is nobody has standing under to enforce a court decision, and you know all about that concept. That's the problem. The Shade Tree doesn't have standing to appeal an adverse decision of the administrator's decision is final. The council doesn't have any authority to pull up the administrator's decision, which they're gonna fix, hopefully, sometime, right? Yeah, so that they can't, there's no way to review this decision, in addition to the fact that there's no, the criteria are very, having read all this stuff, basically anybody could meet these criteria. I mean, they're just not strict enough to protect, to
Is it-
operate.
Is there in the process a method that the city can go by and